There's a war happening every day. Not out there, but in here. The battlefield isn't the economy. It's not politics. It's not technology. The real fight is happening in the 6 inches between your ears. Your mind, it's either the most powerful force working for you or the most dangerous prison working against you. Some people walk around with limitless potential, locked inside invisible walls they've built themselves. Walls made of fear, doubt, comparison, perfectionism. They wait for permission to break free. But here's the truth, no one is coming to unlock the door, because the door isn't locked. You are. Every thought you allow to take root shapes the world you live in. Tell yourself you're not good enough, and your actions will follow. Tell yourself it's impossible, and you'll prove yourself right. Tell yourself you're trapped, and you'll never try to climb. But change the story and you change everything. The most successful people don't have easier paths. They have better stories, not fairy tales, but truths they choose to believe over fear. They believe setbacks are setups. They believe discipline is freedom. They believe failure is feedback, and they act accordingly. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck isn't intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It's mindset. One person sees a wall and stops. Another sees the same wall and starts building stairs. It all begins with how you think. You don't need to be fearless. You need to believe that fear is not the final word. You don't need every answer. You need the belief that you can learn, adapt, and figure it out. Mindset isn't positive thinking. It's ownership. Ownership of your thoughts, your habits, your choices. Your mind can keep you small, or it can train you to become someone who breaks limits. The same energy you use to worry, you can use to plan. The same time you spend comparing, you can spend preparing. The same thoughts that convince you to quit can be restructured to push you to try again, but it takes practice. It takes catching the lies you tell yourself and replacing them with truth. It takes noticing when you're shrinking back and choosing to step forward anyway. It takes waking up every day and deciding, today my mind works for me, not against me. The most powerful thing you control is your mind. You can't always choose the obstacles life throws at you, but you do get to choose how you interpret them, how you react to them, and how you let them shape your behavior. That control, that internal authority over your perspective, is what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Everything starts there. Think about it. 2 people can face the exact same setback, a lost opportunity, a failure, a rejection. One person collapses, spirals into doubt, and labels themselves a loser. The other sees the same event as a redirection, a chance to pivot, to learn, to come back stronger. What made the difference? It wasn't the circumstances. It wasn't luck. It was the mindset they brought into the moment. Your thoughts influence your actions. Your actions shape your habits, and your habits create your results. But most people never stop to question the script running in their head. They don't ask where their beliefs come from. They don't challenge the limitations they've accepted. Instead, they live their entire life following mental patterns someone else planted, and they never realize they've had the power to rewrite the story all along. The strongest people in the world aren't the ones who have it all figured out. They're the ones who've decided to lead their mind before their mind leads them. They understand that negativity will knock, fear will whisper, and doubt will always try to have a voice. But they don't let those things take the mic. They make a decision daily to control the tone of their thinking, to filter their focus, to speak to themselves with clarity, discipline, and purpose. This is what makes mindset powerful. It doesn't mean everything will go your way. It means you'll know what to do when it doesn't. It means you can find direction in the middle of uncertainty. It means you'll show up even when you don't feel like it, because your mind has been trained to follow your vision, not your mood. You don't need to control the world. You need to control your response to it. And that begins in the space between your thoughts and your actions, the space where most people react without reflection. But if you can pause, process, and redirect, you give yourself the power to act with intention. And when your mindset shifts from reacting to leading, everything begins to change, from how you handle failure to how you pursue opportunity. That's where the power really begins. The most powerful thing you control is your mind, not your job, not your schedule, not the opinions of others, just your thoughts, what you allow in, what you hold on to, and what you choose to believe. That is the root of all change. Every breakthrough, every comeback, every reinvention begins in the mind. Before you ever take a step forward in the real world, something must shift internally. The battle is never really outside, it's always inside. That's where decisions are made. That's where confidence is built. That's where direction is clarified. You can have all the skills, all the knowledge, all the opportunity in the world, but if your mindset is weak, it will sabotage you before you even begin. You'll second guess yourself, you'll hold back, you'll talk yourself out of growth, out of risk, out of change. Your mind can become a prison, one that keeps you stuck in cycles of fear, comparison, and doubt. And the bars of that prison aren't real. They're built from stories you've accepted, labels you've worn, and limits. Art would come a bellet of worn numb you've never challenged. But there's another side to it. Your mind can also become a weapon. a tool of precision and power. When you take ownership of your thoughts, you take control of your future. You begin to lead yourself from the inside out. Instead of reacting emotionally to everything around you, you respond intentionally. Instead of waiting for motivation, you create momentum through disciplined thinking. You start filtering out the noise and focusing on what matters. The people who rise, the ones who keep going when others quit, aren't stronger or luckier. They've simply trained their minds to push past what most people accept as limits. They've built a mindset that serves them, not one that sabotages them. They question their excuses. They rewrite old beliefs. They direct their inner dialogue. And that daily practice becomes their foundation for progress. No external force can outmatch the internal strength of someone who's mastered their mindset. Because when your mind is clear, your decisions become bolder. When your mind is focused, your actions become sharper. And when your mind is disciplined, your direction becomes unstoppable. Everything starts from that place. The mind is the driver of your life. And the question is, are you sitting in the driver's seat, or have you let fear and distraction take the wheel? Once you realize that the most valuable real estate in your life is between your ears, you begin treating your thoughts with more care. You begin designing your mental environment like your life depends on it, because it does. Every single thought you think is a brick in the foundation of your future. Whether you realize it or not, your thoughts are constructing something every day, a mindset, a story, a belief system, and that structure becomes the framework for how you experience the world. If your thoughts are rooted in fear, scarcity, and doubt, then the world will always feel like a threat. Every challenge will seem overwhelming. Every opportunity will feel unreachable. You'll walk through life reacting instead of leading, surviving instead of thriving. But change your thoughts and you change everything, because the way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act determines the results you get. It's not magic, it's mindset. The people who achieve the most aren't just working harder, they're thinking differently. They see obstacles as training, not as signs to stop. They see uncertainty as possibility, not paralysis. They've trained themselves to interpret the world through a lens of progress, growth, and responsibility. Think about how many people are stuck in the same patterns for years, not because of circumstance, but because of thought. They keep telling themselves, this is just who I am, or I never get it right, or I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at that. These are not truths, they're conclusions, and conclusions can be challenged. They can be replaced. But that only happens when someone decides to stop accepting every thought as fact and starts questioning the mental stories they've built their lives around. Your thoughts are like commands sent to your body and behavior. When you think, I'm not capable, you subconsciously look for ways to prove that thought right. When you think, I'm falling behind, you make anxious decisions that reflect that fear. But when you train your mind to think with clarity, purpose, and focus, your entire posture changes. You begin showing up differently. You speak differently. You plan differently. You move through your day with intention, not insecurity. That's the power of mindset. It creates your internal reality long before anything changes on the outside. Which is why breakthrough doesn't start with strategy. It starts with self-awareness, with realizing that the thoughts you're tolerating are the life you're building. And if the life you're building doesn't look like the life you want, it's time to renovate what you believe. Not with fluff or fake positivity, but with truth, discipline, and mental clarity. Everything is built twice, first in the mind, then in the world. The story you believe is the life you live. Change the story and you change the future. Fear is one of the most natural human responses. It's wired into us for survival. But in modern life, fear doesn't usually show up as life or death. It shows up as hesitation, procrastination, perfectionism, and avoidance. And if you don't learn to decode it, fear will disguise itself as logic. It will whisper things that sound smart but are really just barriers. Now's not the right time, you're not ready. What if it doesn't work? It sounds like caution, but it's actually control, and most people obey it without ever realizing what they're sacrificing. The truth is, fear is a signal. It shows up when something matters. It shows up when you're standing at the edge of something that could stretch you, grow you, or expose you to risk. But risk is where progress lives. Every meaningful change requires stepping into something unfamiliar. That uncertainty triggers fear, and fear tries to convince you to retreat. But if you view fear as a stop sign instead of a signal, you'll never move. You'll never try. You'll never build what you were capable of creating. High performers feel the same fear, they just respond differently. They've trained their minds to use fear as information, not as instruction. When fear shows up, they ask better questions. What's this fear trying to teach me? What's the worst that can happen, and can I handle it? What's the cost of not doing this? These questions reframe fear from a roadblock to a resource. Fear becomes a tool for awareness, preparation, and sharpening, not a reason to shrink. The difference between people who stay stuck isn't the presence or absence of fear. It's their relationship with it. Most people wait for fear to disappear before they take action, but that's not how it works. Fear leaves through movement. Courage doesn't come before the leap, it comes after. The moment you step through fear is the moment it loses its grip. And the more you do it, the more you realize that fear has a voice, but it doesn't deserve a vote. Your mind can either inflate fear or dismantle it. It can focus on everything that could go wrong or fixate on what's possible. It can amplify every risk or identify the opportunity hidden beneath the discomfort. The choice lies in how you interpret the signal. Fear doesn't have to be a wall. It can be a compass. It's pointing to something that matters, something meaningful, something that, if you lean into it, will reshape your capacity and expand your confidence. That's not a stop sign. That's a call to level up. Mindset isn't something you fix once and forget about. It's not a one-time switch you flip and suddenly everything changes. Mindset is a daily discipline. It's a practice, a commitment, a constant recalibration of how you think, how you respond, and how you lead yourself. Just like physical strength requires regular training, mental strength demands consistency. You don't go to the gym once and expect to stay fit. The same goes for your mind. You must show up for it every single day. The challenge is that most people want transformation without the repetition. They want clarity without the process. But the truth is, the strongest mindsets aren't born. They're built. And they're built through choices made in small moments. The moment you catch yourself complaining and decide to reframe. The moment you feel doubt creeping in and choose to take one small step forward anyway. The moment you feel the urge to quit, but instead recommit to the goal you said mattered. Those moments compound. They shape who you become. The person who consistently challenges their own thinking becomes someone who leads themselves with discipline and vision. The person who waits for the right mindset before acting stays stuck. Because mindset doesn't show up fully formed, it's forged in action. You grow it by doing the uncomfortable thing, by sitting with difficult emotions, by choosing responsibility over reaction. And this is what separates people who live with intention from those who just coast through life. The intentional person understands that thoughts become habits and habits shape outcomes. They don't let their mind drift wherever it wants, they direct it. They don't let old patterns rule today's actions, they interrupt them. They've learned to listen to their inner dialogue, identify the thoughts that are holding them back, and replace them with thoughts that push them forward. This is not about fake positivity. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about taking ownership of what you allow to influence your inner world, because your outer world will always reflect what's happening inside. Mindset is not just about what you think, it's about how you process struggle, how you reframe challenge, how you interpret failure. Every day, your mind offers you a story, and it's your job to decide if that story deserves to stay. There is no arrival point where your mindset is perfect and unshakable. Life changes, and so must your mental habits. Every new level brings new pressure. Every new season brings new resistance. That's why the work never ends. Mindset is not maintenance, it's leadership. Self-leadership. It's the ability to stay focused in the chaos, to stay grounded in uncertainty, and to stay moving even when motivation runs out. Excuses are easy. They come naturally. They slip into our thinking without effort, dressed up as logic or justification. But underneath every excuse is a mindset built around comfort and protection. When the mind hasn't been trained to push past resistance, it automatically defaults to safety. It looks for the nearest exit. And that exit often sounds like, I don't have time, it's not the right moment, I'm not ready, or it's too late for me. These aren't just words, they're signals. Signals that the mind is choosing protection over progress. When someone hasn't taken control,